In the last lesson, we made this Photo Touch app. In this lesson, I'll show you how to submit the app to the App Store. Open your browser and head to developer.apple.com. To follow all the following steps, you'll need to have a paid iOS developer account, which you can sign up for here. I'm already signed in, and I'm going to click on the iOS Dev Center. Before I can submit an app to the App Store, I have to get a distribution certificate that Xcode will use to sign my apps. I'll do that in the iOS provisioning portal. Go to the Certificates section and click on Distribution. Before we request a certificate, we need to download the intermediate certificate. Save the certificate to the desktop. Then search your Mac for the Keychain Access app. If you've never used this app before, it's where your Mac stores passwords and other sensitive information. Drag the certificate that you just saved to your desktop into the Keychain Access app. Now we can request our own personal certificate that will be used to sign the apps for distribution in the App Store. We'll follow the instructions here on the website. In the Keychain Access app, go to Certificate Assistant and request a certificate from a certificate authority. In the User Email Address field, enter your email address. In the Common Name field, enter your name. And in the Request group, select the Save to Disk option. Now we have a certificate request on our desktop, and we can upload that to Apple to create the certificate. So now you can see that the certificate's been issued, and if we refresh the page, we can download the certificate. I'm going to save the file to the desktop and drag the certificate into the Keychain Access app, just like we did for the intermediate certificate. And now on to step 2. We need to create an app ID for our new app. Remember when we start a new Xcode project and we type in the reverse domain name identifier for our app like com.theappdojo.phototouch? That's part of the app ID. Here we're going to generate an app ID that we can use for any app. I'm going to call it Shared App ID. The bundle seed ID is a prefix of the app ID. You can leave this setting on Use Team ID to have Apple generate a bundle seed ID for you. The bundle identifier of our app is com.theappdojo.phototouch. But we can use this same app ID across lots of apps by using a wildcard for the app name. So I'm going to type in com.theappdojo.star. Remember that you don't want to put the App Dojo here. You can put the name of your company and go back to Xcode and change the bundle ID if you need to. And we can see that our new app ID has been created. And now for the last step. We need to create a provisioning profile that Xcode will use to sign our apps with the certificate that we downloaded. Click on Provisioning. Select Distribution. And click on New Profile. We want to distribute the app in the App Store, so we'll select App Store. If we wanted to distribute to up to 100 friends or beta testers without the App Store, we would choose Ad Hoc. I'm going to call the profile the App Dojo App Store Profile. You should see the distribution certificate that we just created next to the distribution certificate setting. And for the app ID, we'll select the app ID that we just created. The devices section is only for ad hoc distribution, so you can select the devices that you're going to put your app on. So we don't need to worry about that now. Now click Submit and you'll be taken back to the list of profiles. If you see a pending message, you may need to refresh the page to be able to download the profile. Download the profile and save it to the desktop. Now you can drag the profile onto the Xcode icon to install it in Xcode. And now we're finished with the provisioning portal. Since we used a wildcard when we generated our app ID, we won't have to do all this every time we want to submit an app to the App Store. In a lot of cases, we can just use the same app ID and provisioning profile for all our apps, as long as we're not using certain web features like push notifications or in-app purchase. Now let's prepare our app description for iTunes. Go back to the iOS Dev Center and click on iTunes Connect. iTunes Connect is where you'll go to set your payment information, see how many apps you've sold, and set how your app will appear in the App Store. Select Manage Your Applications and click Add New App. If you are a Mac and iOS developer, you'll see this screen where you can choose iOS, and we'll input some basic information about the app. I'll call the app My Photo Touch, a fun photo app. And for the SKU number, you can just choose any number that you haven't chosen before for a SKU number. So I'm going to put 10001. For the app ID, be sure to select the app ID that we just created. And since we have a shared ID, we'll need to complete it by filling in the suffix to create the entire bundle ID. So I'll type Photo Touch. Just remember that this section that says Bundle ID has to match what we have set for our app in Xcode. I'll show you where to find that setting after we finish filling in our app info. In the next page, we'll set the availability date for our app. All of the info on this page we can change later if we change our mind. I'm going to leave the availability date as today's date, so the app will be released as soon as Apple approves it. For the price tier, I'm going to leave it at free, and I'll leave the educational discount checked. This next page is where we'll input all the information that's displayed in iTunes. I'll put 1.0 for the version number, and 2012 the App Dojo for the copyright. I'll set the primary category to Photos. Currently, apps are just displayed in one category, but we can set the secondary category to Entertainment in case that works in the future, or in case it does something behind the scenes. If we need to let the person reviewing the app know something like a subscription account password, we can put that info here in the review notes. Now we need to fill in this information to help Apple determine the rating for our app. Our Photo Touch app doesn't have any of this, so in this case I'll put none for everything. Next up is the description. This is what people browsing the App Store read. For our app, I'm going to put a fun way to play with your photos. Your description isn't actually searchable, so you need to put your search terms here in the keyword section, separated by a comma. The limit is 100 characters, and I'm just going to fill in a few like fun, photo, picture, and touches. Now we'll put an email address and website where users can go if they have problems. And the last step is to upload our app icon and screenshot. Apple needs a 512 by 512 image of our icon, which I happen to have on the desktop. And they need at least one Retina display image of a screenshot from our app, which I also have. And now we can save that info. So now we have all our app information set. We can change the description later if we want, but some fields like the title, the icon, and the keywords we can only change when we submit a new update to the app. So make sure all those are right. And if they are, you can click on View Details and select Ready to Upload Binary. Answer the encryption question appropriately and click Save. So here Apple tells us that our app is ready to be uploaded, and if we click Next, We can see that our application is waiting for upload. And the rest of the steps for our app submission will take place in Xcode. So open Xcode and open our Photo Touch app. Click on the project in the Project Navigator, go to the Summary section, and make sure the identifier is the same as the identifier that we typed into iTunes Connect. If it's not the same, you can go to the info.plist file and change it here next to the bundle identifier. We still haven't set the icons for this app, so go ahead and drag those into the project. And set the icon information in the info.plist. Okay, now we're almost there. Click on the project in the navigation bar and go to the build settings. Make sure you're viewing all the settings and go down to code signing identity. For release, make sure it reads iPhone distribution and it says currently matches next to it. If you don't see the currently matches part and you see a no profiles currently match, make sure you drag your provisioning profile into Xcode and make sure the app ID that you created in the iOS provisioning portal matches the bundle ID that you have here in Xcode. Now select iOS device in the toolbar and go to the menu bar and select Product, Archive. This will build your app for the App Store and open the Organizer window. In the Organizer window, we can first validate our app to make sure that it's ready for App Store submission. If iTunes asks you for a username and password, you type in your iOS developer username and password. Then select the application that we just created and your iPhone distribution profile and click Next. If all goes well, you'll see that no issues were found and you can click Finish. And then you can submit your app to the App Store by clicking Submit. And if everything goes well, you'll see the Submission Succeeded dialog, and you can click Finish, and your app has been submitted to the App Store. And you can verify that by going back to iTunes Connect and refreshing your app summary page. And you can see that the status has changed to Upload Received. And that's all you need to do for your App Store submission. Now you just need to wait for Apple to approve the app, and when it's approved, you'll get a green light here next to the status. So I hope you enjoyed the lessons and good luck developing your apps.